When voices rise in heated debates and the weight of judgment falls from every direction, only a few have the courage to stand tall, speak boldly, and reveal the truth without hesitation. Jasmine Crockett has become one of those rare figures. In the midst of relentless questioning, criticism, and political crossfire, she did not step back, she stepped forward. Her words cut through the noise, her confidence shook the doubters, and her truth echoed far beyond the walls where she was being challenged. This moment is not just about one leader being put on trial by all sides. It is about resilience, integrity, and the power of speaking truth even when the world tries to silence you. When Jasmine Crockett stood in the spotlight, she was not just another politician answering routine questions. She was a figure under fire, targeted from multiple sides, questioned about her beliefs, her actions, her positions, and even her character. In the heat of political confrontation, courage is often the rarest quality, because when the pressure mounts and criticism comes pouring in, many choose silence, hesitation, or calculated answers to protect themselves from backlash. Crockett, however, demonstrated something that separated her from the crowd. She faced the storm head-on, with her words steady and her presence unshaken. The courage she displayed was not merely about speaking loudly or aggressively, it was about standing firm in her conviction, even when surrounded by doubters and opponents who wanted nothing more than to see her falter. Every question directed at her carried an undertone of hostility, yet she responded without shrinking, without retreating into vague or defensive statements. She gave clarity, she gave honesty, and above all, she gave strength. Courage in such a setting is not built in a single moment, it is cultivated over years of being tested, of encountering injustice, of experiencing firsthand how easy it is for voices of truth to be drowned out. Crockett's courage came from knowing that staying silent would be far more dangerous than speaking out. She understood that if she allowed herself to bend under the weight of pressure, she would be contributing to a cycle of fear and submission that keeps people from challenging those in power. In that moment, she was not just speaking for herself, she was speaking for everyone who has ever been cornered, everyone who has been told to back down, and everyone who has been made to feel small when they stood up for what was right. The fire she faced from all sides became a test of character, and she showed through her composure that courage is not about the absence of fear, but about the refusal to let fear dictate one's actions. What made Crockett's courage even more remarkable was the environment she was in. Politics is not a fair arena where truth always prevails, it is a battlefield where narratives are twisted, where questions are loaded, where interruptions and accusations are meant to destabilize. Yet she kept her footing in that battlefield. When voices tried to overpower hers, she did not allow herself to be drowned out. She waited, she measured her words, and she responded in a way that made it impossible to dismiss her as someone unprepared or out of her depth. The more she was pushed, the more her strength became visible. There is a kind of courage that emerges when someone knows that the entire room is against them, yet they continue to stand because they believe their position is worth defending no matter the personal cost. That is the courage Crockett embodied, the kind of courage that transforms a moment of trial into a statement of leadership. The attacks on her were not just about policy or legislation, they were personal, sharp, and meant to undermine her credibility. That is where many would have cracked, responding with anger, retreat, or defensiveness. But Crockett used those very moments to demonstrate restraint combined with confidence. She showed that courage is not about matching hostility with hostility, but about rising above it, about showing that one can engage without losing composure, about proving that strength is measured not by the volume of one's voice but by the steadiness of one's resolve. She refused to let her opponents control the narrative, she refused to let them define her, and instead she defined herself through her answers, through her demeanor, and through the unwavering tone of her truth. There is something deeply human about witnessing someone stand in the fire and not be consumed by it. People watching could feel that what they were seeing was not an act, not a rehearsed performance, but raw courage unfolding in real time. Crockett's courage was relatable because everyone, in some way, knows what it feels like to be outnumbered, to be placed on the defensive, to feel like no matter what you say, it will be twisted against you. Yet she stood there as an example of what it looks like to resist that weight, to look into the faces of those determined to bring you down, and to refuse to let them win by intimidation. That is the kind of courage that inspires others to think about their own battles, their own moments of trial, and to believe that perhaps they too can stand firm when surrounded by opposition. Her courage was amplified by her authenticity. She did not hide behind carefully scripted words that sounded safe but empty. She spoke in a way that felt natural, passionate, and deeply connected to her values. That authenticity is a form of courage in itself, because in a political world where every word is scrutinized, where every phrase can be taken out of context, most people choose to speak in guarded tones. Crockett chose to speak openly, to let her emotions come through, and to make it clear that she was not trying to please everyone in the room. She was trying to tell the truth as she saw it. Authenticity is risky, but it is also powerful, because people recognize when someone is real. Courage without authenticity can look forced, but courage with authenticity becomes undeniable. It resonates, it sticks, it leaves an impression that cannot be easily erased. In every trial of this nature, there is an element of sacrifice, because to show courage is to accept that you may be criticized even more, that you may be attacked even harder, and that your words may be used against you. But Crockett showed that courage is worth that sacrifice, that it is better to be remembered for standing firm than to be forgotten for playing it safe. She revealed through her actions that courage is contagious, that when one person dares to hold their ground, it gives others permission to do the same. In a climate where so many are afraid of speaking the truth, her courage served as a reminder that one person's boldness can shift the entire conversation, can change how people perceive power, and can redefine what leadership looks like under pressure. Jasmine Crockett's stance during her trial of words was not simply about handling confrontation. It was about proving that her commitment to truth and integrity was non-negotiable, even under the sharpest political pressure. In the environment she faced, the temptation to bend the truth, to deflect questions, or to carefully construct half-answers that please both sides was immense. Many in positions of power choose this safer path, because telling the truth in raw form is often costly. It alienates allies, it enrages opponents, and it can expose flaws or contradictions that the political world thrives on magnifying. Yet, Crockett resisted that path. She chose integrity over convenience, clarity over manipulation, and truth over self-preservation. This commitment was not just words spoken for the sake of appearance, it was visible in her tone, in her unwavering expressions, in the way she repeated her points without flinching when challenged, and in the way she refused to allow distortion to go uncorrected. To commit to truth in the midst of political pressure requires a kind of discipline that few are willing to develop. Pressure in politics is like a constant storm. There are whispers of doubt, strategic manipulations, unseen negotiations, and direct confrontations that push leaders to abandon their values for survival. Crockett, however, carried herself as though she understood that truth and integrity are not luxuries to be used only when convenient, but essentials that define one's character in every moment. She understood that without integrity, every achievement becomes hollow, every speech becomes meaningless, and every act of leadership is reduced to performance. By demonstrating her refusal to compromise these principles, she made a statement that her credibility mattered more than her popularity, that her honesty mattered more than her comfort, and that her duty to the people outweighed any personal or political cost. The political pressure Crockett faced was relentless, a weight that few could carry without eventually bending. Questions were framed to corner her, statements were designed to provoke her, and narratives were shaped to push her into contradictions. But instead of scrambling to please or evading the traps, she stood with a rare firmness. Each time she was pressed, she leaned into the moment, drawing strength not from political calculation but from her commitment to what she knew to be right. Integrity under pressure shines because it reveals the difference between those who only speak truth when it is safe and those who uphold it when it is dangerous. Crockett's answers reflected a deeper conviction, that truth does not need to be altered to fit the mood of the room, it only needs to be spoken with courage, and integrity ensures it remains consistent no matter the audience. In the world of politics, where every statement can be twisted into an attack line and every slip can become tomorrow's headline, integrity becomes a shield. It does not shield from criticism, but it shields from self-destruction. Crockett displayed this shield by showing that she did not need to hide from questions, because her principles were already guiding her. She revealed that when a person stands on integrity, they do not have to memorize endless justifications, because the truth is stable and consistent across every circumstance. This stability disarmed her critics, because while they expected hesitation, they encountered steadiness, and while they sought contradictions, they were met with coherence. That is the strength of integrity, it leaves no room for those who seek to expose weakness, because truth cannot be undone by pressure. The more Crockett faced political attacks, the more her integrity became visible, because her refusal to be shaken highlighted the authenticity of her words. Integrity is not proclaimed, it is proven, and it is proven in the hardest moments when one could easily walk away from it. Crockett had every reason to give in to the safer path of vague political language, but she chose instead to make her answers clear, sharp, and rooted in fact. This made her a target, but it also made her an example. Integrity is not often rewarded in politics, but it leaves a mark that cannot be erased. People watching her could see that she was not just defending herself, she was defending the very principle that truth matters, even when it comes at a cost. There is also a moral weight to her stance that extends beyond politics. Integrity is what builds trust between leaders and the people they represent. When a leader chooses to distort or manipulate, even in small ways, the bond of trust begins to crack. Crockett demonstrated that she was unwilling to compromise that bond. Her integrity under fire sent a message that leadership is not about saying whatever ensures survival, but about standing in alignment with one's principles so that the people know their representative is not a performer but a servant of truth. The pressure she faced highlighted this message, because the harsher the attacks, the clearer it became that she valued integrity above political survival. Her commitment to truth also revealed the difference between power used for self-interest and power used for accountability. Those who sought to corner her wanted to use their questions as weapons, but Crockett flipped the dynamic by using her answers as reminders of transparency. Integrity turns pressure into an opportunity, because every unfair question becomes a platform to demonstrate honesty, and every attack becomes a stage to display resilience. Crockett embraced this reality, showing that truth cannot be defeated by pressure, it only grows stronger when tested. Her words carried this energy, not because they were carefully constructed to sound powerful, but because they were rooted in integrity, and integrity gives words a weight that cannot be manufactured. Political pressure does not only come from opponents, it comes from allies as well. The expectation to conform, to protect group interests, to avoid upsetting larger powers, all of these are forces that shape how leaders respond in moments of conflict. Yet Crockett's commitment to integrity meant that she was willing to risk alienation if it meant standing by the truth. That kind of independence is rare in politics, because so many fear isolation, but Crockett showed that standing alone with integrity is more valuable than standing with many on a foundation of compromise. This independence is itself a form of leadership, because it signals that she does not belong to those who try to manipulate her, she belongs to the truth and to the people who deserve honesty from their leaders. Crockett's example demonstrates that integrity is not about perfection, but about consistency. It is about showing up the same way under light pressure as under heavy fire, about refusing to bend one's values to suit the convenience of the moment. Her words, her demeanor, and her actions all aligned to prove that she was not there to protect herself but to defend the principles that guide her service. The political arena is designed to break people down, to turn them into performers who prioritize appearance over substance. Crockett refused that role. She chose instead to display that truth and integrity are stronger than political theater, and that when leaders cling to them, they emerge from pressure not diminished but strengthened, not silenced but amplified, not compromised but defined. The impact of Jasmine Crockett's bold revelations did not stay confined within the walls where she was questioned, it extended outward into the public sphere, reshaping perceptions and forcing conversations about accountability. When someone in her position chooses to speak without fear, to reveal truths that others avoid, the ripple effects move far beyond the immediate confrontation. People begin to look differently at the issues being discussed, they begin to reassess the credibility of those who challenged her, and they begin to recognize the value of having leaders who do not hide behind vague answers. Crockett's revelations created this kind of shift, because they were not whispered in private or delivered with hesitation, they were spoken openly under fire, in a setting where every word could be used against her. The courage to reveal in that moment gave her words a weight they might not have carried otherwise, because everyone could see that these truths were not spoken from comfort, they were spoken from conviction. Public perception is shaped not only by what is said, but by the context in which it is said. Crockett's revelations under hostile questioning made people pay attention in a way that carefully prepared statements never could. It is one thing to issue a press release or to deliver a speech where every word has been polished and rehearsed, but it is another to reveal truths when surrounded by adversaries intent on tearing you down. That context gave her words a sense of authenticity, because they were clearly not part of a staged performance. They were raw, unfiltered, and delivered with the kind of conviction that cannot be faked. This authenticity resonated with the public, many of whom were tired of the rehearsed theatrics of politics. People could see that she was not playing a role, she was living her principles in real time, and that made her revelations all the more impactful. The impact of these bold revelations also lies in the way they forced accountability back into the conversation. Accountability is a word often used but rarely practiced in politics, because it requires honesty, transparency, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. By speaking truths under pressure, Crockett challenged not just her opponents, but the system itself. She reminded everyone listening that accountability is not optional, it is essential, and that leaders who dodge questions or manipulate facts only deepen the divide between themselves and the public they serve. Her revelations turned the spotlight away from herself and onto the very structures that were being defended by those who tried to silence her. In this way, she shifted the narrative, making it less about her survival and more about the responsibility of leadership to face the truth. When people see a leader revealing uncomfortable truths while being attacked from all sides, their perception of that leader changes. Crockett's willingness to confront criticism openly created an image of resilience and strength that could not be ignored. Instead of being remembered as a politician on the defensive, she became remembered as a voice unafraid of exposing what others tried to hide. This transformation in public perception is powerful, because it shows that boldness under fire earns respect, even from those who may not agree with every word she spoke. The ability to remain clear and honest while under direct assault becomes a mark of authenticity that people long for in leadership. Crockett's revelations thus became more than just information shared, they became a demonstration of what integrity looks like when tested. The impact of her words also extended into conversations beyond the moment itself. When truths are revealed in a public setting, they echo through media, through community discussions, through everyday conversations where people try to make sense of what they witnessed. Crockett's words sparked these conversations, forcing people to consider not only the content of her revelations but the strength it took to deliver them. This is how bold truths create momentum. They move beyond the initial exchange and begin to live in the minds of those who heard them, shaping the way people think about the broader issues at hand. Her revelations did not disappear with the closing of that moment, they continued to resonate, challenging others to reflect on their own standards for leadership and accountability. The impact was also visible in the way her opponents were forced to respond. When someone reveals truths under pressure, it disrupts the carefully crafted strategies of those who intended to weaken them. Instead of leaving her diminished, Crockett's revelations left her critics scrambling to defend themselves, to justify their tactics, to explain why their attacks failed to break her. This reversal of power is the hidden strength of bold revelations. They shift the balance, taking control away from those who believe they hold it, and placing it back into the hands of the one who speaks truth. Crockett's ability to create this shift showed that when leaders dare to be bold, they can redefine the dynamics of confrontation, turning weakness into strength and trial into triumph. Beyond the immediate political setting, the impact of her revelations touched ordinary people who often feel powerless in the face of larger systems. When someone like Crockett speaks boldly in such an environment, it gives people watching a sense of representation, a sense that someone is willing to voice truths that often remain buried. This kind of impact builds connection, because people begin to feel that their frustrations, their concerns, and their truths are being spoken in spaces that usually silence them. It turns passive observers into engaged citizens, because they see the power of words to challenge authority, and they feel inspired to question, to demand, and to hold their own leaders accountable. Crockett's revelations therefore had a dual effect. They strengthened her presence in the political arena, and they also empowered people outside of it. The ripple effect of bold revelations continues long after the moment of confrontation ends. They are replayed in discussions, they are analyzed in news cycles, and they are remembered by those who felt their impact personally. Crockett's decision to speak clearly and unapologetically under attack ensured that her words would not be forgotten. They became part of a larger narrative about what leadership looks like when it is rooted in truth rather than fear. This narrative challenged not just her opponents but every leader who witnessed it, because it set a new standard for what the public expects. The standard she modeled is not about perfection, but about honesty, about revealing truths even when they are uncomfortable, about showing that real accountability comes only when leaders are willing to face criticism without retreat. Her revelations left an imprint because they carried the rare quality of being both personal and universal. They were personal in that they reflected her own courage, her own principles, her own willingness to withstand attack. They were universal in that they spoke to larger themes of justice, accountability, and truth that resonate with anyone who has felt silenced or overlooked. That combination gave her words a force that went beyond the moment, turning them into something people could hold onto, something they could point to as proof that bold leadership still exists. The impact of her revelations was not just political. It was cultural, because it reminded people that truth has a place even in the most hostile environments, and that integrity can shine brightest when surrounded by opposition.